Okay, in this section we're going to talk about posture and how we're going to try and hold the saxophone correctly and hold ourselves correctly. It's going to be quite important that we don't allow our neck and shoulder muscles and back muscles to be pulled by the weight that we've got hanging off of the front of us here. Okay, it is quite a heavy thing, and it can be difficult, especially for slightly smaller people, to actually really fight against this. So with a good quality neck strap there, we want to make sure that we're nice and straight. We want to make sure that your head is squared off here, shoulders square, okay, and we're thinking about your back nice and proportioned. You stood up straight, not slouched, not forward, not with a saxophone player's rolled shoulder here, any of that kind of thing. All right, to get the best kind of sound you want, we want you stood just there. The saxophone's just coming into your lip, and that gives you the ideal way to stand and play. Okay, now you may find that is an unnatural way for you to stand, because it's actually quite good for you. So a lot of us, especially me, are slouchers, and if you are a sloucher, you need to be a straight up and atom kind of guy or girl now, okay, playing the saxophone. This is what we want you to do. So the next thing that you can think about there is to add a bit more stability into the instrument, is to rest it just onto the top of or into your groin here. Depending if you're playing alto, it'll be slightly higher, okay, into your leading right leg there. And you can stand and just play like that. You can play with legs slightly apart and straight, but that's usually quite a good way for you to get the saxophone to be stable, okay. And at that point, with the fingers, we're thinking about just literally typing out the notes there on the saxophone. You see our hands are barely moving, okay? They're barely moving off of the keywork there. We don't want them to be flicking up in the air, and likewise we don't want the saxophone to be moving around, because not only does it pull it out of our mouth, so we find it more difficult to keep the right mouth position, but also here it's going to be very difficult for us to find the notes and to tap it out. The analogy that I would use here is that if you were on the internet writing somebody an email and your computer keyboard started moving around, you wouldn't be too happy. That's not the way that you want to type, okay? All you're doing is typing out notes on this instrument here. If it's moving about or it's not straight, you're going to find it more difficult to try and plant your fingers onto the right notes at the right time, okay? So this again is a basis for a good, clean overall technique. Nice and straight, legs slightly forward, resting into there, the saxophone up to where you want it to be, your hands nice and relaxed, your arms nice and relaxed here, okay? Everything nice and straight there. And that will be the best way that you can go about learning to play this particular instrument. For those of you as well which are familiar with it, one area that you might want to look at is the Alexander technique, which is taught virtually exclusively all over the world now in music colleges and academies, universities, to teach people how to stand and how to posture. Okay, Alexander would certainly help you there, and you don't need to go for loads of lessons or anything, but you can certainly pick up books about Alexander and find out what that particular technique's about. It will sit in nicely with what you're trying to do here, which is to have something quite weighty around your neck, which you're going to try and make as light as possible. Now finally then, if you want to sit down and play, for alto players you would usually find that if you are going to sit, that you can put the saxophone almost sort of between your legs to play, okay? But with tenor, you are going to need to have the saxophone off to the side there a little bit as you play. So it's a slightly more uncomfortable instrument, and you also find that your thumb will be pressed slightly into your side just there as you sit, okay? But the main thing to think about if you're going to sit and play the saxophone is to have a chair which is not a slouch chair, which is not an armchair, but an actual upright, stand hard chair that you can put your actual bum into the back of, and not on the edge of, into the back, get your back against the back of the seat there, and then try and play from that position, okay? But sitting down is a thing that a lot of people would do But really the best way for you to play, and the way that you will always see the great players play, will be in an upright, stood up position, because it allows you the best freedom to find the notes around the instrument.